Kraken Up, the Carpies podcast, where we talk everything Carpies. Here's your host, Derreck Carapellatti.
What's going on, everybody? We are here for the Kraken Up podcast, episode number 7, and we have podcast god, RC racer, Dave Brinkmann on the show. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on. This is different for me, but this is going to be a lot of fun.
Can you remember back when you did episode number 7?
It's been a while ago. It's been over a year ago. You know what? It's crazy because we're kind of heading towards 100. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's a weird number to me.
That's a huge milestone.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to do a podcast. I remember when I had talked to you about it, probably towards the end of last year, that I was thinking about doing this, and then we have a NASCAR podcast, and you gave me a lot of information on it, and I'm like, yeah, it can't be that complicated. And it's not really complicated, but there's a lot that goes into it, especially if you want it to be anything anybody wants to listen to. Sitting down and recording it is easy for the most part until, you do a dozen of them and you kind of run out of things to talk about or find ways for other people to find what you're talking about interesting. And then there's the whole promotional side of it and just, it's actually a decent amount of work to do it. And a lot of the times when you start doing it, you're doing it for nobody, which makes it that much harder to really. It's almost like working out, I would imagine. I don't know what that's like, but I would imagine that's you're going into it and you feel excited at the beginning, and then you realize you're not really getting anywhere right away. The instant gratification's not there.
Yeah, you pretty much have to do it for yourself, right? Yeah. You have to be your audience and just let it organically grow from that. And you've done that, obviously you've done it. What's nice for you is you have a really nice solid base of people that are passionate about Carpies. Mm-hmm. And so, I think you kind of could head down the runway a lot faster than most people can, like us. We're just a couple of clowns from Wisconsin. We were starting truly at ground zero. If there's a starting line, we were 100 yards back, right? Because they're like, who are these guys? Yeah. And 1RC was kind of new too. And that's predominantly what we talked about, early on. So we were really surprised as things, started to grow. But, you just talked about podcasting in general. We've talked about some of the stats. There's over 4.5 million podcasts that are on Spotify, right?
Yep.
Now, of that, if you get past 10 episodes, you've really crossed the bridge, right? Because they say that, I'm forgetting my numbers, but I want to say it's 60% of all podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes.
Right.
And it's exactly what you talked about. It's you just, you're hyped and you got all this inside you that you want to share and feel people are going to want to listen to. And then you get to about 10 and it is very much like working out, where all of a sudden you're, I'm exhausted. I can't do another curl, and you kind of can't do another podcast. But if you really dig deep and try to get creative, all of a sudden, before you know it, you're 20 in, then you're 30 in, and then you're rolling, and you kind of just lose track of where you're at. Sometimes I got to go back and count. I keep a spreadsheet of upcoming guests and dates and all that kind of stuff, and start counting them out. I'm like, holy cow, that doesn't seem like that was, a year and a half ago that we talked to you the first time. Right?
Yep.
And it just, like everything with time, it just goes so fast. But it's super fun, and we keep finding something to talk about, much like you do on this one and your other podcast. So as long as it's meaningful and you're motivated to do it, just anybody who's listening, and just do it. Just jump in the deep end of the pool, and you can do it. It's not super expensive, and just do it and share your passion and share your message. That's really key.
And for those who don't know, Dave and our previous guest, Ryan Rasloff, they host the RC Underground Radio, which we are the title sponsor of. And like I said, when I first started listening to you guys talked a lot about 1RC, but in previous like maybe the last handful of episodes have kind of shaken up a little bit. We did a little drifting talk. There's been some off-road podcast episodes, covering a wider range. I know I was on, I do a little bit of 1RC, but we predominantly do carpet oval. I know we mainly talked about the wraps then, but that's another avenue you guys go down that's kind of unique and different to hear about is, you've had other like company owners on, you had Murph Dog on talking about like just running a track and the promotional end of things and just like the state of the hobby even. So
yeah, we want to do more of that. My big show that I thought, again, time goes fast, right? All year I'm saying, hey, I'm going to have this podcast. I'm going to have this podcast with a lot of different track owners. And again, time's just kind of gotten away from us. We actually do seasons. So our season goes from September to May. So we're almost like, the first week of June, I should say. But we wrap up production in May. But so we're like right here at the finish line for season 2. And I don't think I'm going to get it in. So it's going to be a big feature for next year. But, when you talk about tracks and track owners, we think it'll be really interesting to get a bunch of different track owners from different genres of the hobby. What's working, what's not, what are their thoughts on the state of the hobby, and hopefully collectively, who's ever listening, maybe they're a track owner, or maybe they'll get motivated to open a track because they'll say, I know what's missing. I have the secret sauce. I could make that happen. So it's going to happen. It's just I don't think it's going to happen here in season 2. It'll be something to look forward to in season 3.
Season 3, doing it for Dale.
Doing it for Dale.
So, speaking of RC Underground, the RC Underground radio, I guess the origin of that was you started your own 1RC track down in the basement, and now we're going to be having a big old event going down here. Not too long.
10 days, buddy.
10 days, yeah.
We are 10 days out.
Jesus. You want to give us a little insight of what's going down? I mean, I've seen a lot of posts going. I see the parking arrangements in place.
Yeah. It's just all the different things you got to think of, right? Because we've had a little wet weather here in Wisconsin, and we don't know what it's going to throw us in the next 10 days. Tomorrow I'll be able to see the 10-day forecast. It can change at any minute, but so I got to be ready. So we got to do things like a parking area. I'm going to have almost 30 cars here, real cars, trying to park in my area. And for people who don't know, RC Underground, the reason it got its name, yes, it's in the basement of my house, and that's underground, right? So that's where we came up with the name. But it is my house, so there's certain things, certain parameters around that versus if I had it at some kind of venue, right? So we put the word out, and very quickly we got enough cars. We were going to do 40 cars, 40 racers, and we got to 30, and I thought, you know what? I don't want drivers out in the garage. They're not going to get the experience.
Right.
The experience of the underground, as it has just evolved naturally, is the fellowship and the laughter and the, everything going on in between the heat races and the qualifying and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I'm like, I just don't want people out in the garage missing all that. Just watching a television screen waiting for the race to come up. Right. Yep. So we changed gears and we cut it off at 30. And we got it's all set up down there. It's ready to go. And we're going to have 30. I feel we're going to have 30 of the best 1RC racers. There's 2 more RC racers. We're not, we haven't gotten full commitment from yet. We're not going to mention names, but I know we got to get a little closer to the event for that to happen. Unless there's something you may have talked to these people. I don't know, and you might have some inside information. If not, that's totally cool too. But so it's going to be the 1RC Foam Oval Nationals. The reason we call it that is we're a foam track, and I'm not saying we were the first. By far, we were not the first, but I think we've tried to promote that. And I honestly decided, you know what? Before somebody else grabs it, I'm going to grab it. We're going to have the Foam Oval Nationals, and obviously an event we hope goes on for a long, long time. So I just wanted to put my stake in the ground and claim, the Foam Oval Nationals name. We call the track the fastest RC fifth mile in America because that's what it is. It's a fifth of a mile in scale. So
yeah,
we're stretching that a little bit, but we're kind of playing off of our famous racetrack here in the area, which is Slinger Super Speedway, which is the fastest quarter mile in full size racing. So we're kind of, it's kind of an homage to them,
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be crazy. It's focused on dirt late models and the 1RC asphalt late models. But then our other rule is 3 cars make a class. So there's basically 6 cars, that 1RC puts out, and we hope to see every class. That would be cool. We've got awards and everything for every class that could show up. If we don't use them, we don't use them. But we're ready for them to come. And I know there's a lot of guys that have multiple cars. So it's going to be big for us. It won't be the biggest event I've ever promoted, but it's big. It's big. Yeah. It's gonna be big. And like I said, we got drivers coming from coast to coast and everywhere in between. It blows my mind and humbles me at the same time that people would decide that they want to come race in my basement and jump on planes and drive for 7-8 hours or 15 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And anytime, I've heard it several times, people will say, "Oh yeah, RC Underground, that's on my bucket list." And I'm like, "What? That's crazy to me. It's my basement. Why is it so special?" But it's just like anything. It's just turned into something that was never planned. It was just planned to, bring the hobby back that I loved as a kid, that I shared with my dad. And I had the room, and I just have the greatest wife in the world who just said, "Just do what you want to do. I don't go down there. So do what you want to do." I'm like, yeah, I think I got to explain what's going to happen down there. And her eyes got kind of wide, and, oh, and but she was like, "You know what? You enjoy it." After we had the first race, Ryan actually won the first race at the Underground. If there's ever a trivia question, now you know the answer.
Last.
First, well, I don't know. We've called them G-Main up until now. We can't do that anymore.
I see that.
The dude just won a big race at Trackside, one of the most well-known tracks in the country. Yeah. For 40 years, they've been around.
Yeah, we've actually been there.
You been there?
Yeah, they. I don't know what year. Probably early 2000s. They had the Roar Carpet Oval Nationals there.
Yeah.
When we were down there.
Yeah. But he went out there, and it was a no joke field too.
Yeah.
When I saw it, and I thought, oh, come on, was he racing 3 other little kids? Like, what, And I go and I watch the video. I'm like, whoa, let's pump as he would say, let's pump the brakes here for a minute. And no, super proud of him. Super proud. Yeah. Love the guy like a brother. We fight like brothers, and we laugh like brothers, and we don't wrestle. I've never wrestled them. I just make that clear. A lot of brothers have done that. We've never done that. No, it's just he's a good dude. He's an amazing story, really, just of the RC hobby. I mean, he's only doing this for 2 years. I know he told the story, on your podcast. So if anybody wants to hear it, they got to go back and listen to that episode. It's a great episode.
Episode number 5.
Yes. And, but, he took to the 1RC cars right away. We ran them upstairs, in a big space that we have at work. We work together, and we got a bunch of people, technicians and people in the parts departments. Hey, come up, run these cars, and we just had a great time while it was available to do that. And it was super fast up there. And that's what he took to. He took to the technical side of it. Took him a while to get the driving to, we had to kind of put the reins on the wild horse. And we all said, get the wins that you can get now, because when he figures it out, we're all in trouble, because his cars were fast, and he took the time on them. That's really, I think, the message that Ryan has brought to the hobby of people that have raced with him. His racecraft is only equal to his technical craft. Like, he might not want this said, but the dude will stay at work until 9:30 at night getting his work done, and then he'll work on his race cars. It's he's got a very, very, very busy job.
Right.
He's the head of sales and for the whole state, and he's got guys, and he's responsible for that, and does an amazing job with it. We're doing great, and but he's super. Anything he does, he's super dedicated to, and he wouldn't allow himself to do it less than 125%. He's on the chip all the time. Him. I mean, he's just on the chip all the time. And but that's what you got to love and admire about the guy, is he dedicated himself to this, especially when he got into the dirt racing, because Attitude Racetrack is no joke either. I mean, it's a backyard track, but they get 100+ cars. They'll get 40 to 50 cars, in the hobby stock division that he runs out there, and he runs the B mods and so forth. And you're not racing 5 guys in your class. You're racing 40, 50 guys in your class. And, for him to then take that and then apply to what he did, I think 2 weeks ago at Trackside, just amazing, amazing where he's come in basically 24 months. I mean, that to me is what's bananas, is a guy that can go from, being teased that he's G-main. He's got A-main equipment and G-main talent, and he takes that and wears it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
But then, 2 weeks ago, he goes out and wins an A-main against a stacked field. Just proud of him and impressed.
I will say, touch on Ryan real quick. He's a super good dude. He's been incredibly good to us as far as just promoting our product, and definitely seeing him grow within the racing end of it as well is cool. Like I told him, like, we're not a performance product, so we don't necessarily care if you win. We just wanted to have a good representation at the track. And he's a fun dude. So naturally, people gravitate toward him, I feel, based on the fact that he has a good personality. He's willing to help, but he clearly puts the work in. He cares about the appearance of his stuff. So, I mean, he's the ideal guy as far as someone we're looking for as a brand representative for sure. But it was cool to see him get the win. I didn't see the video, but I did make a joke on it when he posted it. We shared it and said, "See, kids, anything is possible."
It was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah, and you hit on another thing, he's a great ambassador for Carpies, no doubt. But he's just a good ambassador for the hobby, right? I mean, why it's something good to be involved in, because there's people like this out there, right? You can go to a racetrack, Trackside, you can go to Attitude, you can come to the Underground, and if he's there, you're gonna have a good time.
Oh yeah. Did you see the Cinco de Mayo video?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and that's his life off the track too. I mean, those are stories he's got to tell. But just if you're out with him for lunch, if you're out with him for as he says, cold snacks after work, you go, because it's something fun is going to happen. Something fun is going to happen, and that's just how he approaches life. And I think a lot of us were better because of him. We're better at the hobby, but I think we're just better people too. It's like, don't take life so serious. He'll be at the racetrack, and he'll help anybody, and he has even said, like in one of our recent podcasts, he's just like, well, who would I'm not going to go up to somebody at Chili Bowl and say, hey, let me work on your car. And TJ Greer was like, well, why not? You know what you're doing. You've made other people better. That's where it's at. They have to get the car to win or to run up front, but the basics to make a car settle in and run fast. So don't down yourself that you haven't been in the hobby long enough, because that doesn't matter. It's just helping people and that willingness. So that's kind of the message we try to spread on the show. The hobby and the racing part is awesome. It's the fellowship. It really is. It's just the people that you meet at the racetrack. The RC Underground for me, what's been great is guys I raced with 30, 40 years ago are back racing at the RC Underground. I mean,
they always come back.
Yeah. I mean, guys, I was in their weddings 35 years ago. And then, life just kids and the routine. And but now we're at an age where we kind of got some freedom. Once a month we can meet at the Underground and go play toy cars. And it's just great. But then now, like this event, the FOMOVille Nationals, it's bringing people that 17 people 17 have never turned a lap on this racetrack. But they're all people that have won at their racetracks. Some foam, some carpet, some concrete, whatever. And they're all coming to one spot. And pretty much from the conversations I've had with them, trying to connect the dots, very few of them have raced each other. So,
really?
Yeah. So that's cool. Really intriguing. We got 9 states represented. Of course, there are those 2 people that I still don't know for sure. So, but 9 states represented. But then we got a whole group of guys who have won down there. So you got your locals. Mm-hmm. Even though one of our strongest locals, which is Dalton Hawbaker, he drives 7 hours. Really? 7 hours to come race with us. It doesn't make every show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make every show, but he's been to quite a few, and he's won every time he's been there. So, but we got the big dog, not the Murph dog. We got the big dog coming, Michael Maldonado out of Colorado. Yeah. And he's lights out. He's won all kinds of big shows. We were hoping for Murph. The ironic part of it is we designed this whole race originally when Murph was here for Oval Kings a year ago. And we went out to dinner and we got talking about it. And he said to me, "You want me to come back for a race? I will, I'll do it, but it has to be a charity race." And that's where it started. And so that's the whole thing with this event. Every single dollar, not proceeds, which there's nothing wrong with that when events do that.
Yep.
Every dollar. So we Enersys Energy Systems, they do batteries for forklifts and all kinds of energy system services for all kinds of large companies. Came on board. They love the connection of they sell huge lipo level batteries, right? These big monster batteries, and here we are running these little 300 milliamp lipos, and they just thought that was the coolest thing. And they came on board, paid for all the awards. So we got we got some banging awards for this event. And everything we needed to do to make the race as first class as we could has all been paid for. And so now every dollar coming back in through pit table payments and fees and entry fees, and we're going to do a 50-50 raffle, and we're selling these awesome t-shirts. This guy who designed these t-shirts knocked it out of the park, and then like a mile outside of the park. Everybody's talking about him. A lot of people are buying multiple shirts, which is amazing. And so here's the crazy part. If everybody shows, everybody pays what I think they're going to pay. And this is without additional classes, because, again, I don't know what everybody's going to run. This little RC race in my basement already, without the 50-50 raffle, is going to produce over $2,000.
Wow.
For charity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For charity. And you say, okay, well, who's the charity? We don't know yet, because the winners of the different divisions will decide.
So, the charity is carpies.com.
It could be. It could be. It could be. So, if Billy Bob Johnson the third, wins the race, and he decides he wants that money to go to a certain charity, that's where it's going to go. And then same for asphalt late model winners and all the winners involved. So that's kind of a cool thing, that it'll get spread around. There's been some really good stories of people, racers coming and it's just natural if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing it for this. This is my charity." And you ask the question, why? Is there a tie-in? And man, they tell you some stories, and you're like, whoa, I shouldn't ask because I'm getting a little choked up here in this story, So again, that fellowship side, right? Anybody that wants to get involved in the hobby of RC, that's what they need to understand. There's way more to it than just running cars and buying stuff and getting frustrated because you're not winning. Take it in, breathe in the rate, the atmosphere, the Hughes of the world, the Ryan Ratzloffs of the world, all the guys that show up at tracks. You're going to meet people that will change your life and impact your life, whether you finish first or you're in the G main, right? Just wrap your arms around the hobby and enjoy it for what it is. So that's kind of my soapbox.
I tell that to Audra. I'm like, there's some people that I would probably consider like some of my better friends that I talk to almost daily, and I've never even met them.
Isn't that crazy?
Like TJ and Ryan and a handful of other guys. We talk almost daily, and I've never even met the person. Never raced with them. Just, the hobby brings people together, and you naturally gravitate towards the people that are genuine and not even, they don't even need to be helpful, but they're just genuine. They're funny, and the RC community has some of the funniest people you'll ever meet.
Oh, there's some characters. There's some characters.
Yeah.
You named a couple of them right there.
But there is a couple things that I do want to circle back to. One, if I am included in the two people that you're not sure about, I don't know yet, but I do have a backup plan if I can't make it.
Oh.
If I can't make it, we're still going to donate to to one of the charities that wins.
That's awesome.
So I'll let you know more on that as time gets a little closer. Second, what was it now? Forgot. Gave me so much stuff. Oh, I was going to circle back to your wife and the track being at your house. What does she think of all of what's going to be happening? Racing on a monthly schedule is one thing, but bringing in 30 weird dudes to your house, how's she going to handle that?
Yeah. Well, we do have two big dogs, so she's not worried from a security standpoint, and she trusts me that I have vetted everybody out that's coming,
Yeah.
And pretty much her thing is, hey, if I allow Ryan in my house, why wouldn't I allow anybody else in my house? So
that's true.
No, she's amazing. She's super supportive, and she, after the first race, I think I mentioned it earlier, but after the first race, she was like, this is cool. Like, she comes down there, like especially if there's new people, she loves to come down and visit, and she knows it's important to me, and she knows that I have a good time with it. So she backs it 1,000,000%. And she also knows, I'll be honest. We had one person that kind of didn't fit,
Right.
And she felt it. Other racers felt it. And I had a professional conversation with the person, and she's like, okay, so I know you won't just allow people because you don't know how to tell them no. Right. So, it wasn't a security situation or anything like that. Yeah. If that person's listening, please. It just, it wasn't anything like that. But there just wasn't a fit. So she's confident that, and she's super involved because, and here's the thing. I have to do I'm going to be doing a video here 7 days out, so that everybody kind of knows the final, here's what you need to do. Here's when you show up. Here's what to be prepared for, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She's the gatekeeper. As soon as you get there, everybody's going to meet her because she's going to handle registration out in the garage for me.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That door that leads you to the promised land is locked until, and that was her call. She's like, I think we should lock the door, and I will unlock the door as each person finishes their registration, has everything done, so that that when they come downstairs, they're going to hand you their transponder list, and you can load them in, and everything will go. Because as you and I know, getting RC racers to do what needs to be done is like herding cats.
Yes.
So she's like, just, they'll come in. Hopefully they'll have their forms filled out first. That'll save a lot of time for everybody that could stack up in line. Just get all that kind of stuff taken care of quickly. And it's all, I'm just kind of joking. She's not going to use she doesn't have a stun gun. So that's a positive thing. Yeah. Not yet. But, yeah, they're gonna meet her, and she's helping me, ensure that the day gets started off and get smooth, because it's not gonna be a long day, but it could get long if things get unorganized, right? So as long as we stay organized, I got 2 guys who have stepped up to handle tech. So tech's is gonna work out really well. We've been doing simulations with Live RC. I'm actually on a beta version of Live RC. A little different than what a lot of tracks have right now. And so just making sure that's all running smooth for the day. We don't want any hiccups, because if we get a gap in the show, I don't think I think most people are staying till the next day, but you don't know. There could be guys going, hey, if this thing finishes up by 6:00, I can head home. I don't want to stop anybody from being able to do that. I don't want to force anybody into a hotel that they don't need to have. So,
right.
And all the racing is going to take place, practice, the racing, all that's going to take place on Saturday. And that's our goal. We get going, doors open at 8:30, but we hope to wrap up by 6. I think that'd be a nice show, 6:00 or earlier even. And again, that'll just depend on all those 3 cars make a class. I don't know yet. I don't know how many additional classes beyond the dirt late models and the asphalt late models we'll have. So,
well, I'll give you credit. Not that you don't know this, but everything you do from the little time I've known you guys is super professional, and the effort that you guys have, I mainly would think, put into this event being a success exceeds probably more of. I mean, I've been to a lot of big like carpet oval events, national events. We traveled all over the country, and I would say most of them have put maybe a quarter to the effort and preparation that you guys have put in. So I have no doubt that it's going to be a smooth, organized, proper event. And I'm not like trying to put any other races down, but I've been to plenty of races where, people from all over the country come, and it's a 3-4 day event, and it's just a clusterfuck from day one. And it never gets better. And then you come back a couple of years later and it's still just as bad. I mean, I've complained about it on another podcast, and probably this one at some point. But there is nothing worse than going to. This is a long topic that I can get off topic on real easy, but there's nothing worse than going to a race for 4 days, and I don't mind being there all day or whatever. I mean, that's part of it, but when you're there all day unnecessarily, just because things are unorganized or like there's computer problems that, I mean, I get that some things happen, but things that clearly could have been avoided, and just structure problems, and it's so frustrating to, that a day that could be 9 hours long be 14 hours long.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have to be. And,
right.
And that can get super frustrating. And even if that ends up happening for some reason, I mean, it's not for a lack of effort. I mean, everyone has seen, I've seen more information on this event and in the structure and parking situation, any of those things that like you might run into that you didn't think about, you've thought about. So if something happens there where it puts a chink in the flow of things, it's definitely not from lack of preparation. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously I have some great mentors. I mean, you got companies like yours, like Carpies. You guys do everything top notch. You're so embedded in the hobby. Everything you guys do is super professional too. So, you learn from that, even though it's well, how's a racetrack and a wrapping and merchandising company? How does that fit? It's all on how you run it, right? How organized it is, and making it easy for your customers or for your racers. And so, I learn a lot from you guys. Another huge mentor is Murph Dog. I mean, dude runs a straight up program. His April Foolin' race, that's it. That's that's one of the Mount Rushmores of RC race events. I feel I learned a lot. What I'm doing for the Oval Nationals was conversations with Murph, but 2, listening intently to his 2 pre-race deals, pre-race videos. That's what prompted me to do it. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, get that information out to people more than once, right? A lot of races will do that. It'll be like a week before the race, and they'll put out some information, but needed to do that a little bit earlier too. Learn that from Murph. There's all kinds of good races out there and all different versions of the hobby that you pick up a little bit here, you pick up a little bit there. Again, I have promoted races since back in the 80s. Did a lot of things decent, did a lot of things wrong. Learned from them, right? So you take all that experience and you throw it into one pot, and you just hope you did it. But now you know what we've just done, right? We have just awoken the RC gods, and now some weird thing is going to hit, right? Like my electric is going to go out, or there's going to be a flood. I don't know. Something beyond my control is going to happen now. But no, hopefully everything will go good. I'm just so fired up, buddy. From the time I launched the Underground, I've been wanting to do something like this. Just, there's so many people that have reached out and said they wish they could race there. It's on their bucket list. Like I said, guys that had traveled and come, and I'm like, okay, they've done so much for me. It's time for me to do something for them. And then collaboratively, we're doing something huge for charity, and that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Even if I can't make it there, I am looking forward to watching it from a distance. We're really hoping we can get out there. Like I told Ryan, if we can make it, it's going to be a last minute. We've kind of been eyeballing plane tickets and keeping it in our peripheral, so that way if it clears up, like I told Ryan, our industry is kind of I need it and I need it now industry. So, tomorrow we could get an order for 2,000 shirts, and it's.
So Dave, I've picked up on your podcast that you had you were into RC before all this 1RC stuff. You want to give us a little insight on how you originally got into the hobby and
Sure.
why you got out of it?
Yeah, sure. We got to go in the way back machine. All right. Remember it clearly. It was October of 1978, and wow. I was living up north with my mom and my dad. We'd talk a couple times a week, and he called me. He goes, "I can't wait till you're back because I got this thing I got to show you." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, "You've got these. They're called radio control cars." I'm like, "What's that?" He's like, "You just like drive them around." I'm like, "They're not on a track. They're not," because we had different kinds of slot car tracks, growing up. My dad had a super cool one called AMT, where you actually had a little steering wheel and you could change lanes. So I'm thinking that in my head, like, did AMT come back out again? And he's like, no. I'm like, no tracks. You just race them wherever. I'm like, I just wasn't wrapping my head around it. It just didn't make sense to me. So luckily, I came in for Christmas break, and my dad was a carpet salesman, and they had a big warehouse. And so he had his car, and a couple days before Christmas, but he's running his car around on the floor and all that stuff. And then I drove it. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I could never afford to be a race car driver, but like, this is like the closest I'm ever going to get to a real race car. Little did I know that wasn't true, but at the time I'm like, this is it. Like, I was all in. I was in the deep end of the pool the minute I held a Futaba square box controller with the steering right in front of you, holding it like this, and just a little trigger on the side. Nick Ciccone still has his original car. Still drives that way, by the way. He holds his pistol grip radio this way. It's the funniest thing, but the guy wins. So
I've seen people do that.
Yeah. And that's why, because he's like, hey, the last time I raced was 1984. This is the only way I know how to hold a radio. So it's hilarious, but the guy wins. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm running his car for a little bit, and he goes, oh, well, we have to charge the batteries. And when I turned around, my dad had a whole nother car and setup sitting on a table. He's like, Merry Christmas, buddy. Let's do some racing. I just couldn't believe it. Like, we're going to race cars. I'm going to race against my dad, right? And so we're running around on this slippery warehouse floor. Well, then all of a sudden, here comes his boss walking out from his office, and he's like, well, I'm not going to let you guys play by yourself. So he had bought a car too. So here we are, really? The first night, first time I'm ever running RC cars, and we're racing. We got 3 of us now. 3 cars make a race. There's no doubt about it. And so it all began there at the Carpet Town warehouse, running in the back room. And didn't take long, and got a couple other buddies into it. And back then these cars weren't cheap, right. And you spent more time at the Radio Shack than you actually did, at the hobby shop, because you had to build in the servos, or the sweep off the servo. You had 2 servos in there. One ran the sweep, and then my dad figured out a way to have reverse with some little diode in there, and then you click it, you have it go and click. And so, we had these things all tricked out. Well, I grew up around, and my dad too, we traveled all over the country in our motorhome going to ASA races, American Speed Association races. And we were blessed because at that time it was Trickle and Eddie and Mark Martin and Seneca. I mean, all the big dogs, right? All the best short track racers in the country. And we literally go see them every weekend. One time we went to 60 races in a season. So more than once a week we were going to watch these guys. So so I'm like, well, that's the only way I know how to race, right? So we launched a series called Storm, called Short Track Oval Racing Members, and we set up these cars with the 6-cell NiCad batteries, and we used a hose clamp, and that's how you change batteries. You had to unplug it, use your screwdriver, loosen it up, pull the battery out, put a battery in, tighten it back up, and do it. There were no brakes. There were no corner marshals. It was 200 laps, just like we were like, hey, this is ASA. This is how ASA goes. So right. Just race, and we would have cautions. If you couldn't get to your car, you called a caution. Race would everybody would slow down. You go get your car, and then, we didn't count that lap type of thing. And that's how we ran for almost 20 years. So it started out at first, we had a little track in my backyard. Surprised, right? My first racetrack and my current racetrack are both at my house. My dad had the driveway repaved, expanded, and repaved. So he was as nuts about this stuff as I am. And we ran races there. Then we started going around just parking lot racing is really what it was. So, we built some walls, and we'd take them with, and so then it evolved going into the 90s. So we did that all the way through the rest of the 80s into the 90s. Then later 90s into the 2000s, we came up with the idea of let's try to get like sponsored races. Like, our goal was we wanted people to watch this stuff. Yeah. We hooked up with a traveling car show that went to all different places. And we also hooked up. I would go to like for example, in Illinois, there's a place called Mr. Beef and Pizza. They had this. I went there one day for lunch, and I'm like, this front parking lot would be excellent if they'll give us the space. And we told them the deal. We're like, everybody that comes will come eat at your restaurant. Hopefully we'll get people that'll hang around. So they'll eat lunch, but then they're going to come back in and get a snack, or they're going to fill their drink. And it worked to perfection. We would have anywhere from 60 to sometimes we would have over 100 and some people come. And the first year we only ran like 2 or 3 races there. The next year we ran like 6, and there was a schedule, and they posted it in the window, and we would see people come out to our races that we had seen at other shows. It was crazy. And they just, and then we have other RC racers that would come and try it. And it was so different from what they did. Somebody from Car Action came one time. I know his name was Mike. I can't think of his last name, but he was one of the writers. Came from Michigan, and he ran with us. He ended up finishing second, and he said this is the most different but yet most fun racing I had ever done in RC. We actually our big race at the each year, it started back in 1981, was called the Midwestern 200. We continue to run that race today. We brought it back. Now, because we're on the smaller 1RC track, it's the Midwestern 400. But guys that have raced it and won it want it just as bad. Guys that raced it and never won it are back in the hobby because they want to try to win it. And we call it it's one of our 3 crown jewel races that we do. But we do it old school storm racing style. It's pit stops. The only thing we did change is because of the way the 1RC cars are with the door flap and everything. We do have 2 controlled cautions. Doesn't mean you got to change a battery at each of them. You could change it at 1, you could change it at 2, but it does give 5 minutes of caution time to make some changes to your car. But so that's something that, from a legacy standpoint, still continues today from 40 years ago. And we kind of did that. And then you ask the question, why do you get out of it? Two main reasons. One, life happens, right? You start having kids, you move, you have different jobs, all those types of things. And so time for hobbies sometimes got to be put on the shelf.
Yeah.
At that time we were running 10 scale cars, foam tires outdoors. It got a little expensive, if you remember the 90s into the 2000s, all kinds of stuff was coming out, but the sport was literally out of control. There's no better way to say it. It was just out of control. And nobody was trying to reel it in because everybody kept buying. And, it was the battery of the month club. Guys were buying tons of cells and building packs, and it was the motor of the week, all that kind of stuff going. And there was just, next thing you know, you'd have 20 guys showing up, and it seemed like a blink of an eye, and you had 4 guys showing up. And then that's not a show, that's just not a show anymore. And like I said, life happens. The second big thing, my dad passed away. And he was really the cornerstone of this. His name was Ken Brinkmann. And I don't remember how it started, but you never know how nicknames get started. And somebody called him Kenman. I kind of know where it started. There were different chassis builders, and they would use their first and last name. Or, there was the Artgo series, which was started by Art Frigo, and he shortened it to Artgo. So that was kind of the thing at the time, right? Like, shorten something up that's a first and last name. So somebody called him Kenman, and it's stuck. So even to today, if you come to the underground, you'll see this. First thing you see when you come down the stairs is what we call the commandments, the Kenmandments.
Oh, yep.
And it's, wreck and be wrecked, help others, clean up after yourself, fellowship kind of stuff, just the first thing you see again when you come downstairs is that, because it just sets the tone. You're here to have a good time. Just have a good time, right?
Yep.
And my dad's kind of truly the spirit of of the hobby. He was one of the original G's, So I think he'd be really proud of what we're doing down there, and I know he would just dig it. He would never miss one. He would have been at all of them. And he would have been like, Davy boy. He always called me Davy boy. This is something,
Yep.
So, and that motivates me too, motivates me to try to do something special in this hobby that meant so much to him, and that he got us all going.
Yep.
And, just a lot of fun, a lot of great memories. And, it's just cool that we've found a way to get it going again, down in the basement at the underground.
Yeah, and I can kind of relate to that. So, my dad and I race RC cars, but he actually started with his father, which is Big Ron, as you may have heard. they got into racing in the 80s, and they got super hardcore into it. I started racing around 97, 98, so 7, 8 years old. My grandfather grew up racing go-karts. That's like our family thing, other than me, I guess. But his brothers are 50, 60 years old, and they're still racing karts all over the country. It's
nice,
wild. Yeah, so he passed away in 2020, probably summer of 2020, I think it was June. Yep. So that was one of those moments where we had all three of us traveled my whole life racing, and when he passed away, like I didn't even know if I really even wanted to do it anymore. You know, it's not really the same thing. But fortunately, my dad and I kept kind of going, you know, and continued to go. And every time we go to a race, or even just anything to do with the hobby, you always definitely keep that like in the back of your mind, like what would he like think of it? How would you think you're handling certain situations? And
for sure,
he was definitely the biggest supporter of mine, for sure. And that's actually where I started the whole company. He had a double wide trailer. I started it in the bedroom in the back with all the screen printing fumes and all that stuff. So,
wow,
it's definitely something you definitely keep, you know, even if you don't even realize it in the moment, like you keep those things in mind when you are doing what you're doing or making decisions or you know, representing yourself in any setting, especially in the racing setting.
And it doesn't matter that that's 40 years ago. Those memories are just so fresh in your mind, right?
Yep.
And you pull from them. And sometimes when you're done, you know, you just think, why am I doing all this? You know, you remember those moments, and it just regenerates you. And you're like, you know, like you doing it for my grandfather, me, I'm doing it for my dad. You know, just keep that passion alive, and keep their memories of something that was so important to them has to remain important to us.
Yeah, like even like anytime we do well or anything, I make sure I share it to his Facebook wall. I know, like obviously he doesn't see it, but like it's just kind of cool. Like
Super
it'd be
cool.
something I would text him or something.
Yeah,
if he wasn't there. So
yeah, and I'm sure it's the same for you as it is for me. You know, my dad's been gone 11 years, and there's still times like right before Daytona or something like, oh yeah, I got to call. Oh yeah, no, I can't. I can't call him. I can't call him and talk about Daytona. I can't call him and, you know, talking about the race at the Underground. You know, and but it's cool that they're right there on our hearts, and that we're always thinking about them. That'll never go away for either of us.
Yeah, I even have.
All right, well, we just made the outtake show. That's awesome. I know I'm in the outtake show for sure.
I was gonna say I even have a like a little decal made of him like in a go-kart from like the 70s.
Oh,
and
sweet.
it has like a memorial. I run it on every body I run since then. So
dude,
always kind of keep them there, you know.
Now that you gave that out, you need to do a shirt. I'd buy it.
I actually have those decals on our website. They're free.
Nice.
So we have them in kart size and RC size. So no matter what industry you knew them from, they're there if anybody's interested.
I'm very interested. So that's super cool. I'm gonna go check that out.
That's all right, Dave. Well, despite the technical difficulties and me knocking over the microphone, it's been a great episode. We learned a lot about you, about the Underground, about the big race coming up, and I can't wait to see it. We'll probably have you and Ryan, and maybe some of the winners on, maybe to do a little recap episode if you're interested.
No, that'd be awesome. And like I said at the beginning, like this is weird for me. Like I've never been on this side of the mic. Not, you know, I was telling myself, I was cutting grass earlier, and I said, don't start asking Derek questions. Just let this just throttle back a little bit and just be a good guest and let him flow the show. And it's an awesome show. I love what you're doing with this. I love what you're doing with the NASCAR thing. I haven't missed any of them. Super impressed, buddy. Nice job. Nice job.
I everything I know I learned from the master. So
yeah, well,
hopefully we're not embarrassing.
Introduce me to that guy someday. That would be awesome. So, but again, just thanks for having me on the show. You're always a great guest with us, and truly an honor. I'm not just saying that. It's truly an honor and humbling that you asked me. And I know I don't match up to the talent. I don't match up to the G-main. I don't have all the goofy stories and seeing weird cars when you're driving to Chili Bowl. I don't have any of those stories. But if I hang around with them a little bit more coming up, when we're going to start doing some RC radio road shows. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do for the summer. We won't have a weekly podcast, but we're going to go to races and we're going to film it. And we got some Bluetooth microphones, and there'll be some craziness that's been captured. So when I hang around with them on that a little bit, maybe I'll finally have some cool stories, But no, again, just really appreciate you having me on the show. Super fun. Super fun.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed having you on, and like I said, if I can't make it down, I look forward to seeing how the old race turns out.
Sounds good. We'd love to have you there, though, buddy. You and Audra.
I'm trying. Slave driving everybody at work, trying to make sure I can get there.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, I'll catch up with you probably in 2 weeks for the next episode with unnamed guest. So see everybody later. Thank you.